From bringing a wildcard team to World's quarterfinals for the first time ever, to dismantling legends with full damage tank supports, to one of the strongest hidden counter picks of all time, these are 10 times when pros locked in crazy picks that actually worked, beginning first with Faker's Master Yi mid. Now, as we know, Master Yi is a champion really only seen in lower levels of solo queue due to his pure damage, feast or famine playstyle, but even in solo queue he is almost always played in the jungle, so how could this pick possibly work in the LCK of all places? You see, in the LCK's 2015 summer split, in the second game of a series between the only undefeated teams, SKT T1 and CJ Entis, Faker locked in the Wuju Bladesman under the hope that his team would funnel him kills and allow him to eventually take over the game. However, things didn't exactly go as planned at first. Now, while SKT did in fact try to camp Faker's lane to get him set up with a few kills during the laning phase so that he could snowball the game out of control in true 1v9 Yi fashion, the team's first two attempts didn't exactly pan out as planned, as both the jungler and support ended up with the kills. That is, until Faker took matters into his own hands.
Uses that ultimate, but here comes Ambition. They're going to turn onto him though. Faker gets the damage. Oh, not quite enough because of the position reversal. No, he does get enough. Gets the double kill. Shy looks like he's going to be able to get a bit of revenge.
And though Faker and T1 would manage to ultimately humiliate their opponents during this regular season match, just 2 years later in World's quarterfinals, they were unprepared for the might of the Misfits, and what happens when a tank support becomes a high damage carry. During the quarterfinals of Worlds 2017, heavy underdogs Misfits Gaming found themselves faced up against these LCK Titans with the odds clearly stacked against them, but surprisingly, after dropping Game 1, they managed to rally back into the series by pulling out a surprising win in Game 2. However, headed into Game 3, the organization needed to live up to their name and pull a rabbit out of a hat by surprising Faker and SKT with a special pick of their own. Now, even though Leona has been a popular pick throughout much of pro play's history as a reliable lockdown support, during this time Leona was near non-existent in the competitive scene, nevertheless being played as support with a focus on dealing damage. However, with that said, Ignor's Leona had an ace up her sleeve, an ace more commonly known as the now retired mastery Fervor of Battle. For the unfamiliar, the way this mastery worked was that for melee champions, each basic attack on an enemy would grant additional AD based on level that would stack up to 8 times. So when this mastery was put on a champion like Leona, whose job it is to lock down targets for teammates to auto attack, this combination could do shockingly high damage. And by baiting SKT into taking a fight level 1, Misfits unveiled the power of this secretly lethal duo and shocked both Bang and the world by the sheer amount of damage that this build could bring.
Well, they try to get to the front already. Ignite goes down immediately. No flash forward, but the heal comes out. They turn to Wolf as Bang feels like he can get back into the fight. Just 150
has no heal.
on Samba. One more shot as Wolf wants the glitter lands. Bang almost right there. Barrier comes in. Blood onto Bang. Fight in the jungle still. Here comes Samba. Wolf's going down. 2 kills in the bot lane as Misfits pull the trigger.
And unexpected support picks weren't only limited to 2017's Worlds, as during the year prior, in one of the most amazing miracle runs in Worlds history, Licrit of the Russian team Albus Nox Luna brought the heat when it mattered most for this wildcard region. Because despite being written off as just an unknown team from Russia invited to fill an obligatory slot, fans certainly couldn't have expected this team to shock the group stage by knocking off CLG, G2, and tournament favorites Rox Tigers, all with the help of Licrit's pick or ban pocket pick of Brand support. Now, Brand 2 is a champion rarely seen throughout the history of professional play. However, this didn't stop the motivational support legend from making it a feared pick both regionally and during Worlds. However, one team that didn't respect this outlandish pick was the aforementioned champions of Europe in G2 Esports, and with the champion open, Licrit locked it in and demonstrated why you shouldn't underestimate the power of a wildcard region's pocket pick.
OQ to land, there's the flash cocoon, immediately cleansed from Perks' trick, caught out of, there's another one from Smurf. The Lee Sin explodes, a miracle gets shockwave, but that's only one target. In goes Theos, the Q, onto Perks, Spec, he's been through Perks as well. Albus Nox, take 3 for nothing.
And while G2 felt the flaming power of Brand support, just a couple years later it would be their turn to cook up an unexpected support pick of their own, and they would do it in a crucial Game 5 against SKT, with the one game determining who was going to MSI Finals and who was headed home. Now, G2's 2019 roster is one that has been heralded as the pinnacle of European international success countless times, and this is in part due to the team's adaptability, lightheartedness, and overall ability to have a great time while stomping their opponents. And throughout G2's history as an organization, they've been seen as a team who likes to bring scrim experiments into professional stage matches, whether it's Lissandra support, Nautilus mid, or in this case, Pyke top.
Pike cover coming out from G2. Oh, they lock it in! Oh, and we have no idea where the Pike is going. It could be mid, it could be top.
And while Syndra ADC also seemed to be an abnormal pick in this draft, it did slightly make a little more sense by comparison, as Perkz had spent most of his time in his career playing as a mid laner. However, Pike, on the other hand, is not a champion that any top laner really ever needs to learn, but despite expectations, Wonder was still willing to play a roaming Pike top in this crucial game where the stakes couldn't have been higher. The way this playstyle was able to work primarily involved the usage of Pike's old Q and E, both of which still did AoE damage to minions at the time, in combination with Tiamat to clear waves and mobility boots to roam and make plays elsewhere on the map, not too dissimilar to the more common Pike mid. And after a successful early game, G2 was able to maintain their lead and use this unexpected Pike flex to rip away any chance of an SKT victory and send themselves into the MSI finals.
Teddy is trying to step forward, the taunt is going to come out. Caps is trying to find the kill. Mata's in trouble, Faker's low, but they've already got one onto Mata. Where is Teddy? Follow his HP bar. Khan flashes up the wall, Teddy's dead. Jankos is in the pit. G2 Esports have been gifted and donated a Baron from SKT. That's a dunk from Wonder, death from below, for the double, for the ace, for the Baron and the base. Champions can fall, gods can bleed. Where were you when the West rose up to conquer champions? G2 Esports eliminates SK Telecom.
But while just 2 off-meta picks are impressive and all, it wouldn't be right to talk about weird champions without addressing the man who has defined a team's legacy with his 4 iconic bruiser picks that, no matter the meta, he seems to keep finding success on. And who else could this possibly be other than BDS top laner Adam, whose quartet of picks, often referred to as the Gods, has been a light of dominance within the European League scene and has in fact been strong enough in the past to the extent that other players within the region have begun to play these traditionally noob stomp champions to the point that they themselves have almost been meta at times. Plus, compared to other major regions where these picks are less common, these high damage carry bruiser champions can often be a volatile wildcard to figure out, as when you're mainly used to playing against Cassantes or other safer picks, an angry Olaf charging into a 1v3 is quite the stark difference. And not only have these picks torn up the LEC since his time as a rookie, but even at this previous Worlds, Adam showed what pure spin to win stat checking can do to even the best of players.
3 to honestly nothing really happening from right now.
Not again.
Bring down divine judgment. Adam is owning this topside matchup.
Now, the age-old question when it comes to a majority of champions in League is whether or not it can become a jungler due to the unique qualifications that the role requires, and the answers to this question are of course always changing. And while a trolling teammate in solo queue may try to experiment with this at the cost of the whole team's LP, this was a genuine question asked by Unicorns of Love in their first match against TSM in IEM semifinals. As despite having a pretty standard draft for their first 4 picks, their final lock-in threw a massive curveball as it was revealed that instead of Twisted Fate going mid, the cart-wielding Cowboy was headed to the jungle. And as explained by Kobe, the way this tech was intended to work involved TF's ability to easily kite out camps with his range while constantly throwing a flurry of red cards to deal AoE damage. However, jungler Kikis was a bit more exciting than that.
Alright, well the TF is going for the early gank. He went Krebs into red, now he's going mid, he's got the gold card.
Oh, can they get up Pierce? Any of the chains are going to come down, he's dead. First blood going to Kikis with the jungle Twisted Fate. As I said, if there's a stage to do it, to make your name, that's it.
Thankfully for the Unicorns, outside of the early game, TF's incredible ability to teleport and catch opponents out with his gold card stun is something that's not lane specific, as it would allow them to easily roll over TSM, and while this pick initially seemed troll, it was nothing compared to the madness that TSM had faced earlier that year. When it comes to troll champions who will enter games in League, some players may think of Draven or some may think of Yone or Yasuo, but Cloud9's High was thinking of something a little more old school.
Really, mentality for balls is something that always keeps him in the game. You can put him on any champion. Listen. No. Welcome to the North American LCS.
Now, Teemo is of course one of League's longest standing memes, as everything in his kit is pretty much designed to just mess with you, making him especially annoying in solo queue, but historically ineffective in a team-oriented professional environment. Since Teemo does mostly single target damage, is squishy, and has very little utility, he is almost never even considered by pro players to be a viable pick. However, despite having a rough early game, in a crucial team fight in which the enemy Lucian was the main target, High proved that sometimes sneakily unloading your damage onto a single target can make a pretty big difference.
High actually flashed in from behind the fight here to just pop Wild Turtle as he was trying to do this fight, and once that happened, the fight was over. Bjergsen got distracted, finishing off. Since there's no AD carry, there's no damage left.
And it's these types of off-meta mid lane picks that have become something almost second nature to EU's legend Caps, whose unique way of seeing the game has led him to being renowned as one of the game's greatest players, in part due to his love for cooking up spicy picks, be it in Europe or on the big stages of international play. And there's perhaps no better example of this than Game 3 of the 2018 Summer Semifinals, in which instead of opting for a safe pick like Corki, Caps took a gamble on the unexpected and arguably the most famous voice comm in League history.
Jesus, Dylan. On my Dylan, we have to go Vayne.
No, we have to go Corki.
No, Olaf Galio, Elsa, we're going Vayne, by the way.
Are you serious?
Is Trundle Vayne?
Shouldn't we just go Corki?
But are you serious? Is it gonna win us the game?
Of course.
I trust you, Caps. If you want to go Vayne,
I really
just
think
go
we
Vayne.
should just log in Vayne.
Now, despite having the trust of most of his team, initially Caps' pick didn't seem to be working too effectively, partially because of Vayne's backloaded power spike and partially because of a few fights that didn't go in his team's favor. However, as the game progressed and as Caps began to pick up items and kills, this initially questionable Vayne mid lane pick began to come online as the Fnatic mid laner began making incredible plays by shutting down the enemy Tristana with both impressively precise inputs and lightning fast reaction time.
Reckless is there, Broxer Healer Sagnus OS joining them now, Caps on his way, Misfits 4-man strong, pushing for the in-hit, Broxer's the one to step forward, Alfari will tank it up for the moment, here comes Caps. Getting on to Alfari, with the 3-man knock-up, Hero's entrance comes in, another 3-man, Caps! Caps! Killed Hansama! And that is exactly what you want from your main man in a fight like this! Caps comes up huge! What an amazing performance from Fnatic! And Misfits went for the ballsy play, they went for the inhib, but Fnatic do not give an inch!
And though his Master Yi was a nice bit of BM in breaking the enemy team's mental for a game, when it comes to Faker's history of off-meta mid lane picks, one champion truly stands out above the rest. As during a relatively stale mid lane meta dominated by Zed and Gragas, early into his career Faker brought his own flavor to the table in North American Challenger and eventually professional matches with his now famously lethal counter pick of Riven mid lane. By playing under the tag Barcode Killer, Faker's ability to pilot this champion was nearly unmatched compared to other pros, and at one point even led to him having a 95% win rate at the peaks of NA solo queue, but even at the professional level, this pick was still terrifying to say the least.
Double 6, they get the flash from Nagne, Faker comes in, he's got the ult, he's got the kill. Let's watch this one again, let's see how Faker does.
Wait for the animation, comes out, flashes it.
Wow.
But now, to flip the tables on League's GOAT, it would of course be disrespectful to be talking about off-meta champions without paying respect to one of the, if not the single greatest professional series, not even just in the history of Worlds, but in the history of the game as a whole. As during the semifinals of Worlds 2016, in a highly anticipated series between SKT and the Rocks Tigers, the Tigers had an ace up their sleeve that was so unexpected that Faker himself quite literally told his team that their opponents had misclicked, but as for the comms to the Tigers, they clearly knew something that SKT didn't. Now, Zyra support had been a staple pick throughout the tournament, and by letting SKT just pick it since she was left open, the Rocks Tigers pounced at the perfect time to unveil what happens when bot lane doesn't have just one ADC but two.
But when we're talking about who has the pushing lanes, they actually have done
an insta-lock misfortune.
Something really weird. I don't care about my last point.
By throwing a wrench into the works of the seemingly unstoppable machine that was Bang and Wolf, the Rocks Tigers capitalized on their element of surprise, and luckily for their bot lane of Gorilla and Prey, the results of this misfortune were surprisingly strong.
Dash arrow.
Arrows land on the Wolf, and it's just going to be too much damage too fast.
Feel free to check out all my content, which is linked down below. Consider a subscription if you haven't already, and thanks again for all the recent support you guys have shown me. I really do appreciate it, and hopefully you enjoyed this video as well. So that being said, hope you have a great rest of your day or night. As always, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Later.